A champagne glass shattered near the marble chess table as the millionaire laughed. "Relax," he said loudly. "It's just a janitor's kid. Let him touch the board." The sound cut through the gala music like a crack of thunder. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. A few heads turned, then more. Crystal lights shimmered above, reflecting off gold watches, diamond necklaces, and raised champagne flutes. Cameras were already rolling. This wasn't just a party. It was a performance. The mansion belonged to the man laughing. Everyone here knew that. He stood near the center of the hall, tall and polished, diamond cufflinks catching the light every time he moved his hands. A wildlife tycoon, a donor, a man who liked being seen as generous. Tonight's gala was supposed to be about saving a rare white tiger, his prized animal, the symbol of his empire. Earlier that afternoon, the tiger had collapsed. The news had spread in whispers first, then in urgent phone calls. Finally, a short announcement had been made. The white tiger had been rushed to a private animal hospital, condition critical, but the gala continued anyway. It was rebranded on the spot. A fundraiser, a moment of unity, a chance for the wealthy to prove their hearts were as big as their wallets. And now here they were, drinking, laughing, watching. Near the edge of the room, almost invisible, stood the boy the millionaire had pointed at. He wore staff clothes, plain black, slightly too big at the shoulders. His hair was neatly combed, but his shoes showed signs of long hours on hard floors. He was helping his mother clear empty glasses from a table, moving carefully, silently. His eyes stayed low, his back straight. To most people, he was just part of the background, someone you didn't look at twice. But as he passed the decorative chess table, polished marble, ivory pieces arranged perfectly, he slowed. Just for a moment, his fingers hovered over a knight. Not clumsy, not curious, precise. Controlled, like his hand already knew the weight of the piece, like it had done this before, many times. Then he pulled back. No one would have noticed. No one except the millionaire. The man's smile tightened slightly. He adjusted his cufflinks, eyes narrowing as he watched the boy retreat. Something about that pause had bothered him, something quiet, something that didn't fit. "So," the millionaire said suddenly, his voice carrying across the room, smooth and amused. "You like chess?" A ripple of laughter moved through the guests. The boy stopped. Slowly he turned around. "I'm working, sir," he said. His voice was calm, not scared, not defiant, just controlled. That made the laughter louder. "Oh, come on," the millionaire said, waving a hand. "You were practically drooling over the board, or do you just like touching things you can't afford?" A few guests chuckled, others shifted uncomfortably, phones tilted up just a little higher. The boy didn't answer right away. He glanced toward his mother. She stood frozen near a table, a tray in her hands, eyes wide. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. "I didn't touch it," the boy said quietly. The millionaire raised an eyebrow, pretending to think. "Ah, my mistake. You were about to." More laughter. The crowd leaned in now, not all of them, but enough. This was the kind of moment people remembered, the kind that went viral, a powerful man being playful, a poor kid being put in his place. Harmless fun, they told themselves. Someone whispered, "Is he serious?" Another voice replied, "This is awkward." The boy shifted his weight slightly, trying to step back, trying to disappear into the flow of staff moving through the room. But the millionaire wasn't done. "Hey," he said, snapping his fingers lightly. "Don't run off. What's your name?" The boy hesitated. Every second felt heavier than the last. "Does it matter?" the millionaire added with a grin. "We're all friends here for the tiger." He gestured toward a large screen on the wall where a still image of the white tiger glowed softly. Powerful, beautiful, vulnerable. The irony hung thick in the air. The boy swallowed. "I should get back to work." That answer did please the man. The millionaire stepped closer to the chess table and rested one hand on it possessively. "You know," he said, lowering his voice just enough to sound generous, "this board cost more than most people make in a year." A few guests nodded, impressed. "But tonight," he continued, "it's here for everyone to enjoy, even you." He pulled out a chair. The scrape of its legs against the marble floor echoed, louder than it should have. "Sit," he said. The word wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. It carried authority, expectation. The boy looked at the chair, then at the crowd. Faces filled with curiosity now, anticipation, some amusement, some discomfort. No one stepped in. The millionaire smiled wider. Show us how jungle chess looks like. A few people laughed again, but it wasn't as loud this time. The boy's hand tightened slowly at his side. Not in anger, in control. And for the first time since the glass shattered, the room felt like it was holding its breath. The millionaire placed a thick stack of cash on the chess table, so heavy it made the wood creak. For the tiger, he said loudly, unless you're scared. The bills sat there like bait, crisp, careless, more money than the boy had ever held in his hands at once. Cameras zoomed in instantly, lenses catching the edges of the notes, the glitter of wealth offered like a prize. A low murmur spread through the crowd. Let him play. It's for charity. What's the harm? The boy didn't move. He stood beside the chair, hands at his sides, shoulders steady. His eyes stayed lowered, not out of fear, but restraint, like someone holding back words that didn't need to be spoken. That isn't necessary, he said quietly. The millionaire laughed, sharp and loud. Not necessary, he tapped the cash with one finger. This could pay your rent for a year, or is that too big a number? A few guests chuckled, others shifted, pretending to sip their drinks. The room felt warmer now, tighter. The boy took a small step back, creating space. Please, he said, I'm just helping my mother. At the mention of her, the millionaire's eyes flicked past him. He spotted the woman instantly, standing stiff near the far table, tray clutched too tightly, knuckles white. She hadn't moved since this started. Her eyes were locked on her son, fear written plainly across her face. The millionaire smiled again, slower this time. Oh, he said, voice dripping with false kindness. Your mother works hard, very hard, loyal staff like that are hard to replace. The words landed softly, but they landed. The boy's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Phones were fully raised now. This wasn't playful anymore. This was something else, something people wanted to record. If you win one move, the millionaire continued, enjoying the attention, I'll double it, all of it, straight to the Tiger Fund. He leaned closer, lowering his voice just enough to sound reasonable. If not, go back to mopping. Laughter burst out, louder than before, sharper it cut. The boy said nothing. Silence stretched, the kind that makes people uncomfortable, the kind that forces someone to fill it. The millionaire spread his hands. What's wrong? You were so interested a minute ago, or was that just wishful thinking? The boy's eyes lifted briefly, not to the money, not to the crowd. To his mother. She shook her head almost invisibly. A silent plea, please don't. Cameras zoomed closer. You could hear the faint whir of lenses adjusting. This is awkward, someone whispered again, but no one stopped it. The boy inhaled slowly. His breath was steady, measured. He looked down once more, as if counting something only he could see. That isn't necessary, he repeated. The millionaire's smile faded for the first time. He straightened, ego bruised. He hadn't expected resistance, especially not calm resistance, especially not from someone who had nothing. Do you know who I am? He asked. The boy didn't answer. I built this place, the millionaire said, sweeping a hand around the room. I saved animals people forgot about. I decide where the money goes, and tonight I'm offering you a chance to be part of something bigger than you. He tapped the chess clock. All you have to do is sit. The crowd leaned in. Even the ones who didn't like this couldn't look away. There was too much tension now, too much pride on the line. The boy shifted his weight again. He could feel it, every eye, every camera, every expectation pressing down on him. He wasn't supposed to be here, not like this, not under these lights. But he also knew what would happen if he walked away. The laughter would follow him. The whispers would stick. His mother would carry this moment home with her. The millionaire bent slightly, lowering his voice so only the boy could hear. Don't worry, he said softly. It'll be quick. The boy closed his eyes for half a second. Then he nodded. Not eager, not proud, calm. No smile, someone noted under their breath. He moved to the chair and sat down carefully, back straight, hands resting lightly on his knees. He didn't touch a single piece yet. The room went strangely quiet. The millionaire's grin returned, wider than ever. He took his seat opposite, rolled his shoulders, and cracked his fingers like a performer warming up. Good choice, he said. This will be fun. He slammed the clock with theatrical force. White pieces, he announced. I always start. The sharp click echoed through the hall. And for the first time, the joke stopped feeling funny. The underdog touched the pawn and the room vanished. The marble floor, the crystal lights, the cameras, the laughter, all of it faded as his fingers closed around the small white piece. For a single heartbeat, the noise dissolved. The air felt different, lighter, familiar. He saw a different room. A small apartment with cracked walls and a ceiling that leaked when it rained. The hum of an old radio filled the space, its signal fading in and out as a voice described a chess match somewhere far away. He was younger then, smaller, sitting cross-legged on the floor because the table was broken. A chessboard lay between him and his father. Not a fancy one, plastic pieces, some chipped, one pawn missing replaced by a coin. A battered chess book lay open nearby, pages folded and torn, whole sections missing like secrets ripped away. They didn't need all of it. His father said that often. You don't need every page, his father whispered, adjusting a piece with care. You need patience. Power cuts were common. When the lights went out, they played by the glow of a small candle. Shadows danced on the walls as his father leaned close, voice low, teaching him how to think ahead. Chess isn't about noise, his father said. It's about seeing when others don't. Outside, the city was loud. Neighbors argued, sirens wailed. Hunger pressed in like a constant ache. Chess became their escape, their silence, a place where nothing else could reach them. He remembered his first tournament. A crowded hall, plastic chairs, too many eyes. He lost badly, too quickly. His opponent laughed. Someone in the crowd joked about kids from places like his never making it far. He went home angry that day, slammed the door, refused to speak. His father didn't scold him. He simply reset the board. You spoke too much with your moves, he said gently. Let the board speak next time. The next loss hurt less. The next humiliation taught him something. Silence wasn't weakness. Silence was space, space to think, space to wait. That lesson stayed with him long after his father was gone. The memory dissolved as softly as it came. The underdog's fingers moved. Pawn to e4. Simple, clean, no flourish. The sound of the piece touching the board brought the room rushing back. The cameras, the crowd, the millionaire opposite him already smirking. Oh, confident start, the millionaire said loudly, lifting his champagne glass with one hand while moving a piece with the other. Let's make this interesting. He played c5, the Sicilian defense. He said the name out loud like a challenge, like a brag. Laughter rippled through the guests. A few nodded knowingly, others pretended they understood. The millionaire leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying himself. He talked while he played, commented on his own moves, sipped his drink between turns, every gesture wide, performative. The underdog didn't respond. He sat still, back straight, eyes on the board. His breathing was slow, even, like he was alone again, candlelight flickering, radio humming softly in the background. The contrast was sharp. On one side, wealth and noise. On the other, silence and focus. The crowd began to sense it, though they couldn't explain why. The laughter softened just a little. A few people leaned closer, curiosity replacing amusement. Near the edge of the room, a man who hadn't spoken all night paused mid-sip. He was older than most guests, dressed simply despite the setting. No flashy jewelry, no loud gestures, a respected figure, someone who sat on boards, who evaluated people for a living. An outsider ally, though no one knew it yet. He lowered his glass slowly, eyes narrowing as he watched the board. Something was off. Not wrong, different. The underdog responded to the Sicilian without hesitation. No wasted motion, no signs of nerves. His hand moved like it already knew where it was going. The millionaire frowned slightly, then laughed it off. Beginner's luck, he said, making another quick, aggressive move. You'll crack. The boy didn't look up. Another move, then another. The room grew quieter with each exchange. The millionaire's voice filled the gaps, but even he seemed to notice the change. His jokes came faster now, his movements sharper. The outsider ally leaned forward a fraction, interest clearly sparked. Then it happened. The underdog paused, just long enough for the crowd to think he was unsure. He moved his pawn forward, into danger. A murmur swept through the room. The millionaire's eyes lit up. "There it is," he said, almost relieved. "Mistake." He reached out eagerly, already planning his response. But the outsider ally's hand stopped midair, glass forgotten. Because that pawn wasn't a mistake. It was a sacrifice. Intentional, calm, calculated. The underdog's face didn't change. No tension, no regret. Across from him, the millionaire leaned in, smiling, unaware. And for the first time since the game began, the outsider ally leaned forward, fully focused, recognizing something the rest of the room had just missed. A knight leapt forward, and the room went quiet. Not the polite quiet of a gala, not the kind filled with music and glasses clinking. This was sharper, sudden, like someone had turned the air off. The underdog's knight landed softly on the board, but the move echoed louder than any laugh before it. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't aggressive. It simply existed, in the right place, at the right time. A few guests blinked, unsure why their laughter had stopped. The millionaire chuckled first, a little too quickly. "Beginner's luck," he said, waving a hand as if brushing dust away. "That's all." He reached for another piece and moved it fast, too fast. His chair creaked as he leaned forward, eager to press, eager to dominate. He was still smiling, still performing, but there was an edge to it now. Across from him, the underdog didn't react. His hands rested lightly near the board. His eyes tracked the pieces, not the people. His breathing stayed slow, even. Every move he made looked simple, almost boring, pawns stepping forward, pieces sliding into quiet positions, nothing dramatic. And yet something was changing. The crowd felt it before they understood it. The laughter thinned, turning into murmurs. "Wait, why didn't he take that? Is that move even good?" He's not panicking at all. Phones that had been held high began to lower, forgotten mid-recording. Glasses hovered halfway to lips, then stopped. People leaned forward without realizing they were doing it. The millionaire talked more now, filled the silence with jokes, explanations, half-lessons no one had asked for. "You see, chess is about pressure," he said loudly, capturing a piece with unnecessary force. "You squeeze until they crack." He laughed at his own words and took a long sip of champagne. The underdog responded with a small adjustment. A piece slid back, defensive, quiet. It looked weak. It was. Near the edge of the room, the outsider ally's eyes followed the board closely. He wasn't watching the millionaire anymore. He was watching patterns, shapes forming, space being taken, not loudly but surely. "No," he murmured under his breath, almost to himself. The millionaire heard him and scoffed. "What, you think I'm in trouble already?" A few guests laughed nervously. The ally didn't raise his voice. He didn't smile. He simply said, calm and serious, that was deliberate. The word landed heavier than expected. The millionaire paused just for a fraction of a second. Then he laughed again, louder this time. "Come on, you're giving him too much credit." But his eyes flicked back to the board. He shifted in his seat. His next move came quicker, sharper. He pushed forward aggressively, pieces stepping into space they hadn't earned. The underdog waited. He didn't rush to punish. He didn't chase. He defended calmly, moving like water around pressure instead of fighting it head-on. Each response looked passive to the untrained eye, but the board was tightening, slowly, invisibly. A soft chime echoed through the hall. Everyone looked up. On the large screen near the stage, text appeared briefly beneath the image of the white tiger. "Medical update, condition unstable." A hush fell over the room. The stakes shifted in that instant. This wasn't just a game anymore. It hadn't been, but now everyone felt it. The fundraiser, the money, the image of generosity, all of it hung on this night. The underdog's eyes flicked to the screen. Just once. No fear, no distraction, just acknowledgement. Then his gaze returned to the board. The millionaire cleared his throat. "Well," he said, tapping the table, "let's keep this moving. Time is money." He slammed another piece forward, loud, reckless, a show of force meant to reassert control. The underdog responded by stepping aside. Another quiet move, another piece repositioned, another path closed without anyone noticing. The outsider ally leaned in further now, elbows on his knees. He could see it clearly, the structure, the tension, the trap forming not with aggression but with patience. Around them, whispers spread faster. He's setting something up. I think the kid knows exactly what he's doing. Why isn't he attacking? The millionaire laughed again, but it sounded thinner. You're playing scared, he said, pointing at the board. That won't save you. The underdog didn't look up. He placed his next piece gently. To anyone else, it looked harmless, almost pointless, a move you'd expect from someone trying not to lose too badly. But the ally inhaled sharply, because that move locked the board. Space vanished, options narrowed, lines crossed in ways that only became obvious when it was already too late. The millionaire saw an opening, or thought he did. His smile returned, wide and confident. There it is, he said, finally. He reached forward, hand hovering, already imagining applause, imagining the moment he'd crush the quiet boy in front of everyone. The underdog didn't stop him, didn't flinch, didn't warn. He simply watched. The piece came down. The click echoed. And in that instant, the trap closed, silent, precise, and invisible to everyone in the room except one man. The outsider ally leaned forward fully now, eyes locked on the board. Because the millionaire had just walked straight into it, the millionaire froze mid-move, fingers trembling above the board. For the first time all night, he didn't speak. His hand hovered there, suspended, as if the piece suddenly weighed too much. The room noticed immediately. Silence spread again, thicker than before. Someone coughed. Someone else shifted their chair. The piece came down anyway. Click. And the board changed. The underdog's knight moved next, fast, sharp, alive. It leapt forward like a predator breaking cover. A fork. Two threats at once. The millionaire blinked. He leaned closer, eyes scanning the board, lips parting slightly. His queen was under attack, so was something else, something worse. That's, he muttered, then stopped. The underdog didn't look at him. He didn't need to. Around them, the crowd leaned in as one body now. Phones stayed down. No one laughed. No one whispered. They didn't fully understand what was happening, but they understood that something had shifted. The millionaire reached for his queen, then hesitated. If he moved it, he'd lose material. If he didn't, he'd lose control. He chose fast. Too fast. The underdog responded instantly. Another piece slid into place, smooth and exact, like a soldier stepping into formation. The board tightened further, space vanished, escape routes closed. The queen was trapped. Not cornered by force, but boxed in by patience. A murmur rolled through the room. No way. How did that happen? Was that planned? The millionaire laughed, but the sound cracked halfway through. All right, he said, wiping his palm against his trousers. Cute trick. He took a sip of champagne, but his hand shook enough that a few drops spilled onto the marble floor. The underdog waited. Then he did something that made the room gasp. He sacrificed. A clean piece, offered without hesitation. The piece slid forward and stopped, undefended. A mistake, some thought, a desperate move. The millionaire's eyes lit up again. Relief surged across his face. There it is, he said, louder than necessary. I knew it. He took the piece eagerly, almost triumphantly. And that's when the strike came. The underdog's next move landed like a blade. Precise, final. The knight jumped again. Another line opened. Another threat appeared. The board wasn't just tight now, it was collapsing inward. The millionaire's queen had nowhere left to go. He stared at it, then at the rest of the board, then back at the queen. No, he whispered. Near the edge of the room, the outsider ally stood up. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just enough to be seen. That sequence, he said clearly, his voice calm but firm, is taught at master level. The words cut through the tension like a bell. Every head turned. The millionaire snapped his gaze up. That's impossible, he said quickly, too quickly. He's guessing. The ally shook his head once. No, that sacrifice wasn't desperation, it was preparation. The crowd reacted instantly. Whispers flared louder now. Did you hear that? Master level. This kid. The millionaire's face flushed. A thin sheen of sweat appeared at his hairline. He adjusted his cufflinks again, too often now. His breathing wasn't steady anymore. He leaned back, then forward, scanning the board again and again, as if it might rearrange itself if he stared long enough. The underdog sat perfectly still, hands folded lightly near the edge of the table, eyes focused, breathing slow, calm. Power had shifted. Everyone could feel it. The millionaire tried to bluff. "You think one fancy move makes you special," he said, forcing a laugh. "Chess is long, I've got time." But he didn't. Each option he considered collapsed the moment he touched it. Every path led to loss. Every defense opened something worse. The crowd saw it now too, not the details, but the truth. The man who had been so loud, so confident, so untouchable was trapped. The white tiger's image still glowed softly on the screen behind them, watching over the room like a silent witness. The millionaire wiped his forehead. His fingers hovered again, shaking more noticeably this time. "Make a move," someone whispered. The underdog waited until the millionaire's hand pulled back. Then he moved. No hesitation, no flourish. Just a clean, controlled motion. He looked up for the first time since the game began. Not at the crowd. Not at the cameras. Straight at the man across from him. And he said only one word. "Check." Clock ticked once. Then the board was over. The sound was small, almost nothing, but in that moment it was the loudest thing in the room. The millionaire stared at the chessboard, unmoving. His king stood exposed, surrounded, cut off from every square that might have saved it. No escape, no trick, no argument left. Checkmate. It wasn't dramatic. There was no slam of pieces, no sweeping gesture, just a quiet truth settling into place. The underdog's final move had been simple, clean, inevitable, like closing a door that had been slowly shutting all along. For a few seconds, no one reacted. The silence felt unreal, thick, heavy, almost painful. You could hear the hum of the lights, the soft whir of cameras that had been forgotten, still recording. Somewhere in the distance, a glass clinked as someone's hand shook too much to hold it steady. The millionaire didn't move. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. His eyes traced the board again, as if hoping it would change if he looked long enough. His hand reached for the king, then stopped. He pulled back. Around them, faces froze in disbelief. Then the room exploded. Gasps first, then voices, then sound crashing in all at once. "Oh my God. Did he just? That was checkmate. No way, no way." Phones shot up from every direction. Cameras zoomed closer. Flashes lit the room like lightning. The moment everyone had been waiting for, without knowing they were waiting for it, had arrived. The millionaire pushed his chair back abruptly. It scraped harshly against the marble floor, breaking whatever composure he had left. This is ridiculous," he said, forcing a laugh that didn't fool anyone. His face was pale now, sweat darkened the collar of his shirt. "You got lucky." He stood, towering over the board, over the boy, over the moment, trying to reclaim space that no longer belonged to him. But no one was looking at him anymore. All eyes were on the underdog. He hadn't moved. He didn't smile, he didn't raise his hands. He didn't look around to see who was watching. He simply sat there, calm as ever, eyes resting on the board like it was an old friend. The outsider ally stepped forward. The room quieted again, this time out of respect. "I think," the ally said, voice steady and clear, "it's important we stop pretending this was an accident." He looked around, meeting faces one by one. That game was not luck, it was control, planning, discipline. The millionaire scoffed weakly. "You're exaggerating." The ally turned to him. "No," he said gently. "If anything, I'm understating it." He faced the crowd again. That final sequence, especially the sacrifice before the fork, wasn't something a casual player knows. It's something you learn after years of study. A murmur swept through the guests. The ally hesitated for half a second, then continued, lowering his voice slightly. "I've seen it before, in national tournaments, in training halls, from players who carried titles." The word hung in the air. Titles. The millionaire's expression changed, not anger now, but fear. "You're saying," someone whispered. The ally nodded once. "I'm saying this young man isn't who you thought he was." He turned toward the underdog, his tone respectful. "You didn't want to play tonight, did you?" The underdog looked up, surprised by the question. He shook his head slowly. "No, sir." "Because you already knew how this would end," the ally said. The underdog didn't answer. The crowd filled in the silence for him. Applause started somewhere near the back. Hesitant at first, then stronger, louder. It spread quickly, rolling forward like a wave until the entire room was clapping. Not polite applause. Real applause. The millionaire stood frozen at the edge of it all, clapping hands surrounding him, cameras circling him, but none of it for him. His jaw tightened. His eyes darted around, searching for control, for an exit, for something he could still own. He found nothing. The underdog finally stood. Not to bow, not to celebrate. Just a step away from the table. As he did, the ally leaned closer and said quietly, just loud enough for those nearest to hear, "Former junior champion. Lost his ranking when his family couldn't afford travel fees." Gasps followed. The underdog didn't react. His face stayed neutral. That life felt far away now. Another world, another time. He glanced once toward his mother. She had both hands over her mouth, tears streaking down her face. Not from shock, but from relief. The millionaire swallowed hard. "This doesn't change anything," he muttered. But everyone knew it did. Then the screen behind them flickered. A soft chime echoed through the hall again. The room fell silent as text appeared beneath the image of the white tiger. "Medical update incoming." The words paused for a second, long enough to make hearts race. Then the screen refreshed. And this time the message was different. The screen blinked once. Then the update appeared. White tiger stabilized, condition improving. Relief washed over the room in a wave. Guests exhaled, some collapsing back into chairs they hadn't realized they'd held stiffly. Phones lowered, cameras still rolling, capturing faces of shock, awe, and joy all at once. The fundraiser, once teetering on the edge of embarrassment, had become a triumph. The millionaire's chest rose and fell unevenly. He glanced at the stack of cash he had placed so confidently earlier. Now it seemed irrelevant, small, meaningless. The applause that had erupted for the underdog seemed to echo in his ears louder than anything else. Faces in the crowd no longer looked at him with admiration. Some looked at him with pity, others with disbelief. The outsider ally stepped forward, this time with a smile. He gestured toward the underdog. "You've proven your skill and your integrity," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "We want you involved with scholarships, training programs, and advisory roles, opportunities that recognize both your talent and your discipline." Murmurs of approval spread through the room. "Yes, give him the recognition he deserves." Finally, about time someone saw his worth. The underdog's face remained serene. No arrogance, no smugness. He nodded once, a small acknowledgement of both respect and acceptance. He hadn't played for fame, he hadn't played for money. He had played to reclaim dignity, for himself, for his mother, for the quiet strength he had cultivated in the shadows for years. The millionaire, meanwhile, tried to speak, tried to regain footing. "Well, perhaps his words faltered, pauses stretched too long. The confidence, once so loud and unshakable, had crumbled under the weight of truth and exposure. Some guests leaned closer, others simply shook their heads. He cleared his throat, swallowing hard. Then, almost imperceptibly, he lowered his gaze. A nod, nothing more, silent defeat. For the first time in his life, wealth and power could not mask inadequacy. Cameras caught it all. No staged apology, no forced charm, just humility forced upon him by circumstances he had underestimated. The underdog stood slowly, stepping away from the chessboard. This time he didn't touch a single piece. He didn't need to. Every move had already been made, every point proven. The room watched him walk past the board, dignity intact, eyes forward, shoulders squared. The board remained behind him, silent witness to the battle, the strategy, the patience, and the brilliance that had been underestimated for far too long. Guests began clapping again, but this time it wasn't just surprise or spectacle. It was respect. Genuine, earned respect. Cameras captured the moment endlessly, preserving it for every angle, every replay, every headline that would soon follow. The ally caught the boy's mother's eye. She nodded slowly, tears brimming but restrained. Pride, relief, recognition. Her son had walked through fire and emerged whole. Even the white tiger, though still resting in recovery, had played a quiet part in the night. Its fragility had raised the stakes, its survival now underscoring the underdog's triumph. not just over the millionaire, but over circumstance itself. The millionaire remained seated, still looking at the board, still aware of the eyes on him. Yet the weight of silence pressed heavier than any applause ever could. He had been loud. He had been mocking. He had thought power was in display, in volume, in wealth. And tonight that lesson had been made painfully clear. The underdog paused once in the doorway, taking a final glance at the room. Not to gloat, not to boast, just to acknowledge that the moment had passed, that justice had been served quietly, cleanly, without the need for showmanship. He walked on, and the moral lingered in the air, heavier than any word spoken. True power isn't loud. Respect isn't bought. Greatness waits quietly until forced to speak. The room, the crowd, the millionaire, they all felt it. The silence that followed was not emptiness. It was reverence for patience, for skill, for a strength that had never needed a stage until tonight. And with that, the underdog disappeared into the shadows of the gala, leaving behind a story that would be retold countless times. A story of dignity restored, talent recognized, and humility demanded.